Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Picture Book Summit podcast. We have a very special episode for you today. It is our 100th episode. Woo-hoo!
Crazy.
As usual, I'm your host, Kelly Panique, and I have Katie Davis, Emma Walton Hamilton, and Julie Hedlund with me today. And in celebration of our 100th episode of the podcast, we wanted to talk about some of our favorite Picture Book Summit moments over the years. We've been doing Picture Book Summit since 2015, and so we have a lot of great moments that we've been able to be a part of. And I would love for you guys to jump in and tell me some of your favorites. Katie, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I do want to start because I've been thinking about this episode, and for me this is especially meaningful because I had this idea to do this 13 years ago in 2014, whatever the math is. And I thought we'll do it 1 year, 2 years. And I approached you guys, and Julie and I knew each other then. Kelly and I were working together already for a few years by then. And Emma, I kind of knew. I can't even remember how we initially met, but I kind of knew her, and I was like big fan. And so I was a little fangirling, like, is she gonna do it? And so now we're friends, dear friends. And so the fact that we're doing our 100th episode of the podcast based on the business that we have been working on together for a dozen years, it warms me to such a deep level, and it's so meaningful for me. And if ever I feel like, oh, I haven't gotten a book published in a while, or I'm getting a rejection or this or that, I think, we have helped so many thousands of people, and the fact that I get to do with you guys, it's beyond comprehension to me. Like, I can't even get like all verklempt over it because it's too big for me to absorb. So starting with that, thank you for doing this with me and saying yes all those years ago. It's definitely a team effort. It's been really, really fun to work together on this. And to start with, an early session that we had when we first started, I think you just said that Paul Zelinsky was in our second year. And I remember him saying that he remembered being in his crib at his great grandmother's house, and over the crib hung a huge painting that she had made of Hansel and Gretel. And he talked about these intense feelings that the painting gave him, and that how you never have those kinds of strong reactions to things once you've grown up, and how that affected his way he approached his art and his storytelling. And those are the kinds of feelings I want to bring to children reading my books, something that they will remember when they're way past the age of reading those books. So how about you guys?
Well, I mean, there've been so many, speaking of fangirling, there've been so many fangirl moments for me over the years, just to be talking to Tomie dePaola or Kate DiCamillo or Don Klassen, or I mean, just you name it, just picture book rock star after picture book rock star we've been so fortunate to have. And just the thrill of being, knowing that we're able to bring that person to our audience, but also that we get to talk to them ourselves,
Yeah.
And,
That's our sneaky little plan.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, my mind went straight to Tomie dePaola and that wonderful moment when he showed us his tap shoes, and he was broadcasting from his studio and talking about his papers and his paintbrushes. And, it just that having having read his book since I was a child myself, and somehow that magic of being inside a master's studio and a master's process, really stuck with me. And then, of course, I know that you guys all will share this one, but the other one that really jumps out at me is Andrea Davis Pinkney.
Yeah.
First of all, telling us that she gets up at something like 4 a.m. to swim every single day.
Yeah.
Julie, what about you?
Well, I mean, it's it's impossible, really. And I'm sure we'll keep going around, but
Yeah.
I remember how nervous I was the night before our first summit because I was interviewing Peter Brown, who was our first speaker.
Very
And
first,
I
yeah.
just was like, I couldn't believe that I was first up. And I remember very specifically the nightmare that I had the night before of missing it, and the whole summit kind of crashing down, and this idea that we had failing all because of me, right? It's your typical anxiety
Poor
dream.
Julie.
But
Something she's never shared before.
another memory though from that first summit is how jazzed we all were. Like every session we'd be like, you guys, can you believe this? We're behind the scenes talking to each other. This is amazing. Oh my gosh, And one thing I think our attendees I mean, of course they can't get this because we don't, but behind the scenes, we are always so excited and fans and just like jumping up and down and talking about how great that was. And so we are very much in the same spirit, I think, as attendees are on the day of. I mean, I have so many favorite moments from the summits, but also from the tech check. So in this round, I'm going to share a couple of summit moments because a couple weekends ago, I was at my regional SCBWI conference, and both Sophie Blackall and LeUyen Pham were there as keynote speakers. And they had both been superstars. They'd both been keynote speakers for us in different years. And one of my favorite moments was Sophie was a speaker during the pandemic
Right.
or 2020 year. And she shared this little like video story that she had made featuring a sweet potato. Do you remember
Yes.
that she had drawn and she'd made this whole story? And I just remember the video from the back of this sweet potato sitting on a hill and the wind blowing.
Yes,
And I
yes.
mean, I was
Talk about creativity.
sobbing at the end. It was like such a moving out of a sweet potato. And so I always now associate Sophie Blackall with sweet potato. And I got to
But
tell
also
her,
we got to see her process,
Yes.
all of her
Right.
exactly.
tools
And I got to tell her that in person. Like, I will never forget the sweet potato, and so we chatted for a few minutes at the conference. And with Win, she shared with us sketches and some early art from the picture book Bear Came Along,
Mhm.
which went on to win a Caldecott
Caldecott.
honor.
Yeah.
And we saw it ahead of
Right.
time. And you all, if you haven't read that book yet, it is a perfect
It is
picture book.
perfect.
It is
Yeah.
a perfect picture book. But
If you want to study page turns, that is a perfect book. for
yeah,
that. It's so good.
it was
And funny, we should say.
and
It's
funny and I remember
kid friendly.
feeling how special that book was and how lucky we were to get to see the process before the book was even published.
Yeah.
So those are the two that I'll share for right now, just because I happened to see them both a couple of weeks ago and got to chat with them about my memories from their sessions.
I'm
How
so
about
glad you brought that up
you,
because
Kelly?
yeah, that's such a there are several of our superstar speakers who have given us sneak peeks at books that later came out. Adam Rex shared On Account of the Gum. Like he was showing us and I think it was fairly early stages even because he was showing us how he revises he revised a whole tweet to make sure that it was funny enough for him, but then he showed us how he applied that same thing to a picture book. And Matt de la Peña shared a poem that eventually became a picture book, and we've had so many people that have been so generous in sharing their works in progress, which is amazing to me, and kind of leads to one of the things I feel like is so special is that while we fangirl and we, we're like, oh my gosh, this is a celebrity in the picture book world. When they come to us, they're so like normal. Like when they start talking to us in our tech checks and then with the audience, it's like, yeah, I'm a writer too. We're writers together. There isn't, I very rarely feel like, this person's way up here and we're just, I feel like once we start talking to them, they kind of bring us into their world. But I love that because I think everybody starts somewhere and they got to where they are, and it's like they remember what it's like to be that newish
right.
writer.
And John talking about how he hates, what did he say? He said
he doesn't like drawing characters that do things.
Right. Well, he said he's afraid of he's so afraid of
emotion
and showing emotion and drawing what it is. So he just tries to keep himself distance. And that's why he has all these very blank characters. And it turned into a style for him.
Right.
And it turned into the voice.
Deadpan, the same sort of deadpan voice that
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the most transformative in terms of my own craft.
Yeah, that was 2021.
Hearing him talk about how he uses his own fear in his creative process. And not because he's pushing through the fear.
No.
It's sort of like if you lose your sight, your hearing is going to get a lot better. Your other senses intensify. And that's what he's doing. He's like, I don't like emotion. So I'm going to do all of these things that make my work so unique in order to avoid emotion,
Yeah. But sometimes when you put like boundaries on a creative process, then you become more creative because you have to do something with the things that you have, and he kind of uses his fear as those parameters. But I'm sorry, Julie, I interrupted you.
That's okay. I remember him saying, am I afraid of punctuation? And he was he was talking about how I Want My Hat came about because of all the things that he was afraid of, and that he took out of the book because, well, I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of that. And then I wrote it and I didn't like it. And part it was like all this dialogue. And he's like, am I afraid of punctuation marks? Like he ended up taking out the quotation marks.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the things that's really cool for us is that we do tech checks with all of our speakers before the summit to make sure everything is working. And some of those times are like my favorite summit memories. Kelly, I don't feel like I can tell this full story. It's not mine to share per se, but John Klassen shared his experience at the Bologna Book Fair for I Want My Hat Back, which was when I met him for the first time and basically tackled him like, are you John Klassen? And he was like, oh my God, who is this person? And we talked about it, and he went on to tell these stories about his experience at that fair and how traumatizing they were for him on so many levels. And so that was just really fun because, from my perspective, it's like he was being taken around and being a superstar and everything, but it wasn't like that for him. And Tomie dePaola gave us a tour of his studio. And just recently, this round, Jason Chin, I feel like he's like a Buddha, I mean,
definitely.
When we were doing his tech check and we got so deep talking about craft things, and it's like he's soft spoken, but then he just drops these absolute pearls of wisdom.
Yes.
Just left and right. I learned so much from that tech check just talking to him.
I also remember the Fan brothers and how they were talking about something that I do, and we've talked about this before, and it was such a confirmation that I wasn't doing it wrong, which is something I know that Emma has also spoken about, which is to just get out of your own head by doing something else, taking a shower or a walk, or, you've talked about walking your dogs, both of you, and just doing something completely different, doing the dishes, whatever it is. And they talked about that, how to get out of your own head so that you can get out of your way and let the muse come in when you're not focused on it. It's kind of like peripheral vision. How you can, when you're looking at the stars at night, if you look straight at a star, you can't really see it, but if you look just to the left of it, you can see it over there. And it's always a fascinating thing to me, where I'm always trying to, I caught you, and if you let it go and don't try to catch it, you can see it. And I remember feeling so validated by that they do that, because I thought, oh, I'm not smart enough, I can't get it fast enough. And it's wonderful to hear people who you revere say, yeah, we do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say something that is a little bit different, but it just jumped into my mind as a powerful memory. And that is that the first couple of years, of course, we were working with John Bard and Laura Backus, as they were co-founders with us, and we had wonderful experiences with them. But then they retired and they moved to New Orleans and, pursued a new life. And we had a moment of, John had been our host and our MC, and we had a moment of kind of worrying about how we would, fill that gap. And we knew of Kelly's behind the scenes talent. We knew Kelly was an awesome producer and great behind the scenes, but that doesn't necessarily mean, that doesn't always translate into a great host.
Right,
And
an MC.
An MC, exactly. That takes a whole different set of skills and muscles. And I just remember all of us just saying, well, let's just give Kelly the chance. Let's let Kelly be the host. And that first Picture Book Summit where you were the host, Kelly, I mean, within 5 minutes,
We do.
Katie and Julie and I were texting each other, and we were like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Her energy is so effervescent and she's so warm, and
good.
yeah.
And I'm going to add to that, our 10-year anniversary, Kelly pulled off the surprise of the century.
That's right.
Remember, she did this retrospective video.
Oh my gosh, I forgot
our
about
first summit up until that year, and as a surprise to us, we had no idea it was coming, and it was
beautiful gift.
That was amazing. Yeah, yay for Kelly.
Oh,
Oh,
well, you guys have given me a beautiful gift, being able to work on this. And because of that, I've grown over these years. We had some other producers behind the scenes that went off to do other things, and I took on more and more behind the scenes, and then took on the host role. And I just appreciate the trust you guys have put in me. And I'm so energetic on Summit Day because I am genuinely so excited to be there. And just the picture book writing community, creating community is just, to me, it should be a model for how all communities should be, because it's always so giving, and it's always, everybody is so positive. And so it's really easy to be energetic. And when I say that I'm the head cheerleader, rooting you guys all on and wanting you to be successful, that's all true. And I hope that comes out, because these guys will tell you every time we're planning something, it's like, okay, but what is that author going to learn? What is our audience going to learn from this thing? Like, they need a takeaway. They need something they can apply to their manuscripts right away. And I mean, that's all.
Actually,
Kelly, it's all true.
Kelly, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because it may be something that people understand sort of internally or through osmosis, but one of our big differentiators at Picture Book Summit is that even the biggest name speakers, we want them to bring something that anybody in any stage of their writing career can apply. So I think we've all been to conferences or workshop or whatever, where there are these major inspirational speeches and they're fantastic and they're very rah-rah in the moment and you feel, and that's great. But what we want is something that you can apply to your own work, right? It's
Practically.
yeah, it's amazing to hear somebody's story and how, they got to where they are and everything, and it's valuable in its own right. But since we just have one day, we try to make it so that you get, and that's because that's what we want from them too.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit self-serving, but I think it makes for some really special moments. And speaking of people being sort of regular, like that we realize we're huge fans, but then they're just people trying to work at this like us. Can we just talk about how vulnerable and amazing Vashti Harrison was
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, I
this
knew where
year?
you were
Like
going.
the
She was
most,
How authentic and willing to share and generous, she was.
Very
right?
generous.
Like things that I
and to reveal
certainly had
herself.
never heard from any of the
Yeah.
things that I've
No.
read. And I've even seen her speak before live. And a lot of that stuff that she talked about was so new to me. And I was so honored that
Yeah.
she felt like she could share that level of
Yeah.
vulnerability and detail with us.
I think
And
you
it's
bring
her,
up a really good point too, Julie, because we have, like, we talk about it being very energetic and we're so excited. And sometimes I talk too fast because I'm so excited about everything that's going on. And there is that energy in the room, and I feel it with our attendees in the chat. And we're literally all over the world with our attendees. And we have Diane in New Zealand who's there every year. And then we've also had people from South Africa and Germany and Malaysia and Singapore.
Singapore.
And
Yeah.
just to have all of that energy in the room is so amazing. But then at the same time, there are those presentations we've had where if we were all in a room together, you could hear a pin drop because you could just feel like just how everybody is mesmerized by what is going on the screen right now. And the ones that come to mind are Vashti was definitely one of those this year. Kate DiCamillo, who was
DiCamillo, her
also very
kitchen.
vulnerable with us,
Yeah.
and sharing her process and all the doubts that she had, and just how contradictory this whole creative life is. And Sophie Blackall too. I just remember us all just being like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Look at all of these things she's sharing. And she was like an angel from heaven, the way she was talking
But
about her process and just how she creates. And I think those moments are just so special that we get to share those together.
And there are the behind the scene moments too. Like our attendees have heard us say before that we work on these summits for over a year and we meet weekly, sometimes multiple times a week, and we're constantly in touch with each other. And there are those moments where I was just thinking about Vashti Harrison and how thrilled we were when she said yes, that I texted you guys at 10 o'clock at night and I suddenly realized what time it was.
but
Because
it was
her,
I like, and
yeah,
nobody balked. It was just like we were all screaming with text.
yeah, exactly. Vashti Harrison said yes. Oh my God, and
we were
that's
very
the
thrilled.
that's how big fans we are,
Right.
that we're so excited when somebody, a hero that we've reached out to says yes. Or the fun of brainstorming what the theme is going to be in
Yeah, I
any
was just
given
gonna
year.
say, not only the theme, but how we're going to unveil it. Like
Yeah.
conversations that we have around, like this year when we had the superhero theme, and how we were gonna announce, roll out like the speakers, and we write scripts for those videos, and we have a lot of fun.
We used
My,
to make videos in the theme, and it was something we took way too long to make, but they were so funny. They were so funny.
The pirate ones were
The
my
pirate
favorite.
one was
Those are
my
the ones I still
favorite.
think about. Yeah. And you guys had to go looking for treasure, and like
Right.
I think
Yes.
Laura was still with us at that time, and she was in her bathtub, you know, like that was but dressed in her pirate costume, and Julie
Right.
was like traipsing around her backyard, and you had a huge hat, I
I know.
remember.
Yes. I was like the big, Victorian age pirate ruffles.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a funny
And
story.
Katie was down on her beach with you had like
Right.
actual
Yeah,
treasure.
you and Emma
Right.
both
Very
had like
Yeah.
actual beach. But I'll tell you a funny story. So one of the things that this wasn't for the pirate one, but we did like an Indiana Jones type one.
Yes.
And I remember buying like a big bag of snakes because, we all know the snake scene, how he's afraid of snakes. And I put them in my shed. And that was, I don't even remember what the shtick was, but it had something to do with snakes, or there was a clue there or something. And so we went and did the video, and my son was like 11 at the time, and he helped me. But then later, when I went to go get gardening tools out of the shed, like, a year later, I've forgotten about the snake. I was like, oh. So,
That's amazing.
it's just kind of funny.
All a day's work.
It's things that we do as picture book creators. How, it bleeds into real life.
Everything.
Oh, goodness.
Another one I remember that I loved was Peter Reynolds. That was another 2020 pandemic year. And I remember going, we need the positivity of Peter Reynolds this year, and he delivered, and he was also really authentic and encouraging, and he talks even on a video, you feel like he knows you. And what I love though is that he was the last speaker of the day. And at the end of the day, we do our dance party, and he stayed on. And not only did he stay on and dance with us, the song that was playing was "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself," because the whole theme that year was about voice and telling the story only you could tell, and that sort of thing. And while he was dancing with us on screen, he drew us a picture and he had it up, and it was like, "Thanks for letting me be myself," and he was dancing with this picture, and I needed that, at that time. Yeah, that was a really fun one. I really enjoyed that one.
Wow. I had forgotten that. So it's great that we all have different things that we remember, because maybe collectively we remember it all.
So can you guys remember all the different studios we've seen that they've shared with us? Like we talked about Tomie dePaola and his studio cottage. Like we went through various rooms with him.
Did we see
Jason and
Jason Chin.
Yeah, you were saying, what'd you say, Paul Zelinsky?
Yeah.
Yeah, he drew us a picture too.
Sophie showed us all of her collections.
Well, and she did show us, because she, at the time, I don't know if she's still there, didn't she share a studio with like Brian Lee's and somebody else?
And she had she had just bought her barn upstate.
Yeah, Milkwood.
That's actually, speaking of Milkwood, I happen to have this book sitting right next to me right now. That her renovation of Milkwood inspired this book, which for those of you listening is called Farmhouse, and is one of my favorites of hers. And she collected things as she went along and used those
from the farmhouse.
From the farmhouse, like that was all dilapidated and everything.
Right.
And
used it in the book.
She used stuff that she found in the book in the illustrations, which
that's so cool.
And she showed us that.
We saw the Steads showed us there. I think it's
a
renovated barn.
Oh my gosh, their space
was
cool. Amazing.
Yeah. And Matthew Cordell, I think, showed us his space.
Yes, he was in a little outbuilding, like a converted shed or something in the back in Philadelphia somewhere.
Right.
So
That was
cool.
great.
Yeah.
Amazing experience just
Yeah.
to be there every year. And it goes so fast. I can
It
never get over
does.
that.
I
Yeah.
know.
Do you guys remember the fastest talker we ever had was Rukhsana Khan? Do you remember her?
Ooh,
When
yes.
she
Yeah.
she was talking about Big Red Lollipop and several of her books, but she was talking so fast. She had so many things to get in there. Like she was just like, and it was so jam-packed of her process and revision ideas and I think she talked about, what was it? Cultural connections, like taking your personal experience and making a universal thing
So, yeah.
that other people could relate to. And I just remember, had jam-packed so much into that. And she was talking so fast. And we still had very little time for Q&A, but she was awesome. She was great.
Yes. She
That
was
was
That
great.
was
fun.
that's another thing that we've gotten better at over the years is that we really strictly enforce on our speakers to be done. And we tell them 40 to 45 minutes so that usually they're finished at least by 50 minutes
Yeah.
Mm.
so
Yeah.
that we can get
Usually
enough
pretty good on time.
Well, and you know, when
enough
we started,
Q&A.
it was only a 45-minute presentation to begin with. And so that
Oh,
was one of
right.
the things that we learned over the years, is we wanted more time with our
For
speaker and more
Q&A.
time for Q&A. And we went to hour-long presentations, which I think was really good.
Yeah.
We've also had some excellent poets, and I would love to know who you
Nikki
guys
Grimes.
remember as your favorite ones.
Nikki
Nikki
Grimes.
Nikki
Grimes.
Grimes. Oh
So
my gosh,
amazing.
she was
Yeah,
so
Nikki Grimes
powerful.
giving us poetry exercises, giving us
Yeah.
her
Oh,
prompt.
and the
That
workshops
was
too. The
And
amazing.
workshops are good.
listening to her read her poems was like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
that's such a gift.
So if any of these presentations sound interesting to you and you want to learn more, we do actually have them available at our Fresh Learn site, which is at picturebooksummit.freshlearn.com, and we'll put a link to that in the description below. So definitely go check those out. If any of these have sparked something from you and you want to see more of it, it's a great place to go and pick that up. So as we close this 100th episode, and thank you guys for listening so that we could have 100 episodes, I would love to know from each one of you what has been the most meaningful thing about Picture Book Summit for you. And Julie, let's start with you.
Wow. Okay, it's hard to come up with one thing, but I think what drives me forward, because let's face it, it's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work. It's like the Rose Parade is how I think of it. The minute the one summit's over, we're starting on next year, right?
It's so
And then the
true.
floats go by really fast and they're beautiful and amazing, and everybody's like, oh, and then we start over. So it is a lot of work and a lot of fun, but I think what does it for me is the authenticity and excitement from the audience. So one thing that we do at the end of every summit is we take 30 minutes to have a chat. Like attendees can come in and do a live chat with each of us, all four of us. And the comments that we get from people in that space, I mean, throughout the day in the chat, but in those final chats are so incredible. Like people saying how much they learned and how much fun it was and how they love the dance parties. And it's so rewarding at the end of such a great day to have that be kind of our finale, is getting feedback from the people we're serving, you know?
It sort of plays off of what you just said. For me, it's the community. While people are presenting these amazing, open, vulnerable, and fascinating presentations, they are part of the community, and the people we are presenting to are part of the community, and we are part of the community. And then it continues into our Facebook group, and just knowing every time we are doing the planning stages after the floats go by, to continue with that. In my mind, and I think all of you too, the first person we are thinking of is the communal attendee. It's in my mind, like an avatar of everybody who follows us and people who are super fans who've come so many years. And just the thought that we're helping people sort of, for me, takes me out of like a woe is me moment of where's my writing going and blah, blah, blah. And to know that you're helping someone else is so gratifying that what did I used to call it, Julie? And Kelly would know too. Being selfishly
Oh,
being selfishly unselfish. So getting a high from helping other people. I'm selfish because I want the high, but you're helping other people. So
Yeah,
that's what it is for me.
it's funny because I was going to say community too, but I was thinking about it in a slightly different way. Obviously, helping people is the main part of it, but you know, writing it can be such a solitary thing.
Right.
We're all in our writing studios or offices or whatever spaces, libraries or whatever spaces we write in, coffee shops, struggling with the blank page and struggling with the idea and struggling with the creative process. And on a day like Picture Book Summit, to be in community with, so many hundreds of other people in the same milieu, grappling with the same questions and dedicated to the same passions and the same outcome, dedicated to children, first of all, and the creative process it's such a heartwarming, affirming thing to feel. And best of all, we don't have to leave our house to do it.
It's an introvert's dream.
It's an introvert's dream. It's a writer's dream, I mean, I think about all the conferences I've flown to or paid for to travel to and hotels I've stayed in and just the joy and the riches of this experience while at the same time being able to go make a cup of tea in my own kitchen. Um, it just
I'm not
that's
sure we
absolutely
talk
wonderful.
about that enough. I think, yeah.
I don't think we do. And for me, it's like I feel like I'm home and touching the world at the same time.
oh, that's such a.
Yeah, that's a
You're-
great way to put it.
I'm
Yeah.
home and touching the world at the same time. I think we
That's
need
what
to
it
make
is.
that a quote for our social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that you said affirming. I think it
Yeah.
definitely feels very life affirming for all of these positive writing people to be together. And mine, I'm gonna say what's meaningful for me is growth. Not only have I grown, as we alluded to earlier, and I've learned so much being a part of this conference for all these years, but not only have I grown in my technical abilities and in what I do behind the scenes, but I've also grown as a person and becoming a host, like you guys said, and which has been so much fun and I thoroughly enjoy. But because of you guys have challenged me also to actually try my hand at writing. And I could tell you when we started this 12, 13 years ago, I was like, oh, well, I'm not a writer. I could never do that, And to cut to this year, and I actually wrote 2 manuscripts that I'm working on. But not only my personal growth, but I see the growth in you guys as well, and the different things that you've learned and challenged yourselves to do, and how kind of vulnerable you are as well, and being like, oh, well, I learned this from so and so, and that sparked this, so I'm trying that now. And I think it also goes to our attendees as well, as I hear the things that they're working on, and oh, Picture Book Summit last year was so amazing that I did this with this manuscript. And so it's I just love that we inspire that growth in people. I think sometimes in life it's really easy to get stuck in a rut, and I hope that what we do inspires people to get out of that rut and to know that they can follow those writing dreams that they have.
And
So
think about all the picture books of the future
Right.
that might come out of that
Oh,
growth,
that have
that
already.
have come out of and that
Right.
will continue to come out of that growth, right?
Lindsay Leslie, who is a friend of mine, has a book. Oh, I can't remember, the Dusk Explorers, I think it's
Yes.
called.
Mhm.
And she told me that her attending Picture Book Summit and listening to my presentation that year, which was about rhyming, is what enabled her to get that book published. And it's not because she did better rhyme, it's because she realized that the book did not belong in rhyme.
That's
Mhm.
amazing.
She changed it. So that's just one example, but I am sure that there are many, many others.
Well,
And
we've talked a lot recently about how like having all of those pieces, and then like as Emma says, the light shines on you and you have the flow and the, you know, all, but I think we've put a lot of those pieces together or closer together in place maybe for a lot of writers. So anyway, it is very affirming as Emma
And
I
says.
think that maybe the way to put it in terms of what we're giving or what we hope people take away from the conference every year is kind of the same, which is we want you to be excited
Mhm.
about going into your own work and getting at it. And that's what it does for me. I always find myself inspired and thinking, I can't wait to get my hands on that manuscript again. And we hear that from our attendees too, that feel like they've gotten unlocked in some way and reconnected to their own work.
There's some people who leave midway and start working, and I'm always like, just wait, let's do it tomorrow.
Well, yeah, sometimes you
gotta
gotta
go where the
strike,
music.
yeah,
Yeah.
when the iron's hot. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, thank you, ladies, for this today. This was really affirming for me.
Fun.
And
I
thank
feel
you
like we should
again.
have had party hats, but
I
maybe
know,
Yeah.
right? Confetti, some things
Yeah.
like that. But and thank you to our audience, because we would not be here without you if you didn't find what we were doing to be worthy. And we just really appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. And we'll see you on the next Picture Book Summit podcast. But also be sure to check out the website, because every October, the first Saturday is when Picture Book Summit is. And you could check out the website to sign up for our waiting list if registration isn't open yet, or you can find on the website who our current speakers are. So if you haven't come to Picture Book Summit yet, you will love it, and we want you to be there. And we believe in you as a writer. That's why we put all of this together. So
That's right.
thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.